Hello and welcome everyone to our ORC webinar series. My name is Serena and joining us today is Juan Rico, who will be presenting on the topic of Unpacking the CRA from Draft to Delivery, ORC's Working Group's first deliverables. If you have any questions for Juan as we move through today's presentation, feel free to ask them in the chat or use the Ask a Questions tab. Without any further delay, Juan, over to you.
Thank you, Serena, and thank you everyone who is attending this webinar. I will first start in apologizing for not being able to make the previous one, but this one has not been less challenging. So hopefully that they will be with us for the rest of the session. Well, basically, before starting, I want to share the agenda for the day because, the title reflects that we are going to speak about the deliverables for sure, but there are certain other things that I would like to comment during the day. So the first one will be a recap of the previous webinar. It was a very good introduction of the CRA in general, what the working group is doing, and I think it's worthy to make like a quick recap of what we covered last time and use it also as a way of introducing what are the topics that are going to be deeply discussed today. The second aspect that we will be covering will be where are we today? That's one of the main questions because CRA implementation is bringing a lot of challenges in multiple directions. So it's good to set up a bit where we are and why things have happened in the way they happen and where are we going also. The third element will be the deliverables themselves, the different types of deliverables that we have created in the working group, and also how they relate to the different activities that the CRA is requesting, but also the open source community is working on. And finally, it will be a call to join our community and be part of this effort, community effort that we are implementing. So very briefly, those the aspects that we covered last time, the CRA fundamental implementation, where we are at the collaboration and the community involvement. So I use this just as a reference, but I will focus first on the CRA itself. And the first aspect is the why. This is probably a slide that you've seen many times, but it doesn't make it less useful. And I think that there is one figure that speaks loud and clear, which is the impact, the estimated global annual cost of cybercrime in Europe. It's of 5.5 trillion in 2021. So this is like a trigger for the Cyber Resilience Act, and what they are aiming to is basically protect consumers and business by using products or software with the digital component. So at the end of the day, we are, or the CRA is introducing regulation into software, but what we cannot deny is the impact that cyber attacks are having on the economics and on the business all around the globe, but especially in Europe. So with this in mind, what the European Commission wants to achieve with the CRA. So the first thing is that the act will see inadequate security features become a thing of the past, with the introduction of mandatory cybersecurity requirements for manufacturers and retailers of such products, with this protection extending through the product life cycle. So this paragraph reflects perfectly all the intentions behind the CRA, who is going to be affected, and how long the CRA measure should be implemented in the product. So the first thing, and going to the part of this on both here, is that the inadequate security features becomes a thing of the past. And those mandatory cybersecurity requirements are things like security by design, how to report vulnerabilities. There are a list of things that need to be taken into consideration. That in the past, some people took it, some other, basically once the product is on the market, it was no longer the manufacturer.
As I was saying before, one of the most important aspects of the CRA is not only the mandatory cybersecurity requirements, because the concept of security by design has been with us for quite a few years, but there is also one really important thing, which is that this protection extends through the product lifecycle. And this is definitely a game changer for many manufacturers that usually doesn't cover the support to the products, especially on the cybersecurity part, in the same way as they did with other features of them. So that's something that we need to be aware and need to be taken into consideration. And the last aspect is the who of who is the CRA targeting, and it's basically manufacturers and retailers. Okay. So what are the things that are requested to manufacturers? The first one is the cybersecurity risk assessment, and risk assessment is probably one of the most important things of the CRA, because CRA is a risk-based regulation. So it's important to have in mind that what are the aspects that you are covering in your risk assessment, and in which way they will be impacting the cybersecurity measures that you will be putting in place. And the other thing is that this applies through the whole supply chain and through the product life cycle. So perform due diligence of open source dependencies is one of the main things of the new things that the CRA is implementing. So and here you have some of the things that I was mentioned before about vulnerability management, reporting, upstreaming of fixes, so and many more. But again, this is the things that probably are more challenging for everyone who has been in the market, because the whole supply chain was not considered before. It was basically the code that was authored by a manufacturer, and the whole product life cycle. It's also an additional challenging aspect that is introduced by the CRA. How? And this is also a really interesting aspect, because 41 standards request to the European Standard Organization has been set, and those are going to be used to provide presumption of conformity. Additionally, there will be implementing act and also best practices formalized. For instance, how to perform the due diligence, or for the implementing acts, the attestation program. Good. And as I said before, we know how to do compliance already. This is something that you heard quite often when you start speaking about the CRA. How is this different? And I think that this reflects very well the challenge that the CRA is introducing. Well, the whole software stack, and there are some statistics that sustain this statement, is basically 1/4 author and procure code, 3/4 open source supply chain. So far, what manufacturers were really taking care of in terms of compliance was the author and procure code. Now, the situation is that you are fully responsible for every single piece of code that it's included in your product. So that the situation goes like to a complete a new level of complexity, and that is something that cannot be fixed from one day to another. So it requires understanding the processes, what are the new things that you need to include in your compliance journey, and also how this is going to be affecting the maintenance of your products in the market. All right, so in terms of standardization, there are two big groups of standards. The horizontal ones, I put this pyramid that it's typically used by the Commission to explain how the different standards applies in the CRA. CRA Annex 1, which is about the risk-based approach, the essential requirements, CRA Annex 1 Part 1, and the vulnerability handling, CRA Annex 1 Part 2. And then we have the vertical, important products, class 1, important products, class 2, and critical products. I think it was commented in the previous webinar. Here we have today a bit of the work that we've done on this direction, but the distinction between the types of products is also one of the most important things in the CRA, because depending on your category, the kind of measures that you need to implement and the way you certify that your product is CRA compliant is completely different, and the differences are significant. So yeah, some of the challenges that the CRA has brought to the open source community, and yeah, those are like the four main that we have identified. And the first one is the clarity on the CRA text. Basically, well, ensuring that the cybersecurity that is easily understood is one of the main issues, because there are a lot of gray areas that need clarification, and indeed the Commission is working on it. The second element is the interfacing with the regulators. Actually, you presented before that 40 one standards are going to be developed. Yeah, interfacing with the regulators, also with the Commission, and also the market surveillance authorities that are the ones that will be monitoring the implementation of the CRA in the different countries, is like one of the main aspects that or challenges that the CRA is bringing. Input to the standards, yeah, is not be compliant with them, but also being sure that yeah, the way they are the information that they include represent quite well how the industry works, and not introduce additional yeah, problems, challenges, or barriers to still use open source contributions. And the last one is probably one of the most important, is to raise awareness. Yeah, the CRA is really changing how the whole software industry is working, and there is not enough awareness in general of the impact it will have on all of us. So yeah, those are the four main challenges, and based on that, yeah, the open regulatory compliance emerged as a collective effort from the open source community to bring clarity in this new scenario that software regulation is setting. So yeah, five elements that summarize our mission, and it's really important for us to be a neutral forum. So it's not only that having open source software foundations or a representation of them, but also to be sure that everyone in the community can participate and be represented in the ORC Working Group. So yeah, we have like a good vision on the things that have been proposed, the outcomes that we are generating, and confidence to keep interfacing with the regulators. The second element is the regulatory awareness and the ecosystem impact. So understanding and develop perspectives on emerging regulations and informing the broader open source ecosystem. And I would say that not only the open source ecosystem, because there are many people that are, especially companies that are, extensive open source users, that they are not aware of the challenges that they are facing, or they will be facing in the near future. And start speaking to them is like one of the main things that can help them to be compliant, and also to increase the impact of the activities that we are implementing in the working group. Also to develop best practices and sustainable solutions. So it's, for us, it's not to make like one good report and then start with the next one. It's basically to create a structure that will help us to stay up to date on what are the requirements that the regulations are putting into the software industry, and also revisit the content that we are launching from time to time, because this is a quite dynamic environment, and it's important to be sure that the information that we have, it's relevant at any time. The fourth aspect is education and the implementation, and here it's something that it's one of the challenges. So the objectives that we have in the near future to work on educating on how to rely on the assets that we are creating to basically simplify or help companies to in the journey of implementing the CRA. And the last one is the institutional collaboration. With basically all the different institutions that are participating in the CRA, in its implementation. And the pillars: thought leadership, well, creating awareness through innovative ideas. The technical work that we are doing, some of it will be presented in when I speak about the deliverables, the institutional engagement and representativity. That is basically what I presented before, but like consolidated in the pillars that the working group is taking as references. Well, our members, and just to close with it, we have 50 members already, with different categories. But as I said at the beginning, the idea is to make a good representation of who we are, the whole open source community, and try to be as inclusive as possible with all of them. So, where are we today? And that's a very good point. And why are we launching this question is basically because when we started working on ORC, and even before that, we all had like an idea of how to implement this, and we are going to launch a specification. These specifications will be adopted by the standards. A lot of good ideas at the moment, but then the reality is offering us a different perspective. And I would like, before jumping into the deliverables that we have created, comment quickly on where we are today, why and how the working group has adapted to this new reality. So the first aspect is that the collaboration with the institutions is much more intense than we initially thought, and it's not a bad thing. On the contrary, it's a really good one. But the way this interaction is happen is shaping also the way the working group is operating. Many times, or at the beginning, it was very much focused on what the text of the CRA said and how we as a community can create solutions for that. The reality is that the Commission especially, and also through our participation in the different standard organizations, we are receiving a lot of requests for inputs in different ways. And those requests for inputs were not initially envisioned, and they are changing a bit the planning that we have for the working group. Not making it less relevant, on the contrary, is actually to be really delivering those aspects that will help to shape the future of the implementation of the CRA, and really bringing value from the open source community to the ones that are writing all the supporting materials to be compliant with it. So this is one of the first big lessons that we've learned in the first part of the year. The second one is that we need to be more granular with the ORC community. And why? Because the scope of the CRA is too broad, and there are a lot of things that can be done. And when we started again, it was like, all of us can be in the same meeting, and we can discuss some of the topics. But at some point, we realized that we need to focus and to clear a bit, or go deeper into the conversations that we have. And that's something that even our structure at the beginning was set to focus only on the CRA and try to avoid other discussions that can distract us from bringing value to the CRA implementation. Through the process, we found out that we need to be more granular. We have created different task forces to focus on those specific aspects that require like deeper conversations. For instance, the FAQ or vulnerability handling or inventory, for naming a few. And the third element is how to be more inclusive with the community, how to help the new members that we are having in our community to join and be ready to contribute to the work that we are doing. Again, that's nothing revolutionary at all, but when we grew or because of we grew in such velocity, we sometimes need to balance on how we keep progressing on the technical side, what are the assets that we bring for newcomers in the community, and how not to forget that the first thing that we need to build is a good community, and based on the community, it will be much easier to contribute or to help them to contribute to the different technical assets that we want to bring. So those are like the three main things or main lessons that we've learned in the first half of the year, and that we have applied and put measures in practice to be sure that the effectiveness and the impact that the working group can create is the biggest possible. So all of them results into a live and updated deliverable plan, and that was like the main idea I want to convey today. That we started with a deliverable plan that was really well structured, focused on creating an impact. But then, as I said before, the request that we have received has taken us into different directions. Maybe doing things that wasn't envisioned at the beginning. But the most important thing is how to be sure that the impact that we are creating and the views that we are sharing as a community are delivered in the right place at the right time. And that's the reason for having this live and updated deliverable plan. All right, so yes, let me. So the next element is the deliverables themselves, and this is the updated deliverable plan that we have today. And we have split it in different categories. Why? Because as I said before, it's important for us to set expectations of ourselves, the community, and whoever is going to read those deliverables on what kind of things you will find in them. And also to reflect properly what are the main driver for creating those deliverables. So we have documentation with FAQ and inventory, which are like more generic things that have been created from the very beginning of the working group. Inputs and contributions that are driven by requests or opportunities that we have with European Commission and regulators. The white papers that are expected to be more informative assets, going deeper into specific topics that, they are not like 100% covered by the standards, but still they are super useful to get a better view on what the CRA is requesting and how it is impacting the open source community. And finally, the specifications that, that probably they are the assets that are closely linked to the standards. But some of them will be out of them. So we prefer to keep them as specifications rather than use them as something different. So I will start first with the documentation, and the first one is the FAQ. Probably you've heard about the FAQ. If you haven't, I think that first thing you should do is check our FAQ, because this is an open space where the community is bringing questions and all together are working in creating the answers for them. And it reflects very well what are the key concerns that the community has. Also, it is a very good place to get some of the views from people in the community who has spent a lot of time trying to understand the CRA itself, and also interfacing with the institutions to get like a better or more clear understanding of what is the intention of the text. And I think it's one of the most useful exercises that you can make. It's in our GitHub space, and really, I really recommend to go through it. The second thing I recommend, and I forgot to put the link here, is check one of the webinars that we did. Toby and Felix, Daniel, and who else? I don't remember the fourth one. And Martin in the GitHub with for the maintainer month. because that was a 1 hour conversation, really enlightening and insightful about how open source will be affected by the CRA, focusing on the maintenance, but they cover many of the questions that we have in our FAQ. And so once you have done these two things, if you still have more questions, that of course it's something that can happen. We have proposed a very simple process to contribute to it. And the first thing is to open a new issue. Well, once you have checked already that this is not something that was discussed before. Through this new issue, we will enable the community discussion. The third element is the community consensus. That is one thing that is key for all the things that we are implementing in the working group, because at the end of the day, most of the things that we are doing are coming from internal discussions and try to agree on certain things. So having this community consensus is the most important aspect that we are trying to convey from the very beginning. And when we have the consensus, the last step will be the delivery into the final FAQ. And just a quick comment on the task force. As I said before, we started this as a general effort from the working group, but at some point, especially when the volume of issues increased in our repository, we found the need of creating a specific task force. It's open and collaborative, of course, but the ones that are contributing to it provide an in-depth analysis of the multiple issues open. And again, following a process, it's easier to decide on status and next steps. Hopefully, the guidance from the Commission will be launched soon on the open source part, and we can progress even further with the FAQ as to take it to a next level. So regarding the inventory, it was the other big asset that we've been working on from the very beginning. What we try to do with it is to get all the relevant resources to the horizontal CRA standards, the obligations of the open source stewards, and voluntary attestation programs. So it's a catalog that collects all this kind of information, and actually it's a very good collection of resources that on the one hand gives you a good overview of all the things that are related to the CRA that are already available, or that there are some references that you can relate to, and also identify what other aspects needs to be incorporated to be sure that your journey for the CRA compliance goes the smoothest way possible. So the next item is inputs and contributions. And here is basically how we have reacted to requests from the different institutions, or the opportunities that we have had for providing comments or inputs to the requests. And before getting into them, here we have two types of contributions. Those are which are public consultations, so everyone has access to the information, so it's super easy to gather the community and build consensus around opinions or the things that we should be reporting. But there are others that are not disclosed to the general public, and mainly coming from the ESOs or some documents from the European Commission. And the second group is challenging, but still the working group needs to implement something to be sure that the open source view is included and well represented. And I will go through it in the next slides. So for the public consultations, is quite easy to define a process. Because actually the way we are working, it's similar to the one we implement for the FAQ. So the first phase is basically a proposal, And here we have a reference document. So yeah, we need to take into consideration which is the current version of the document, or the current text that we want to amend, or the community want to amend, and yeah, propose a modification and a justification for that. So with that in place, it's easy to enable a discussion, and basically to collect as many inputs as possible, and then try to have, well, always in the open. Yeah, being sure that yeah, for each proposal that we are having, a discussion is happening, so we can get into the third element, which is the consensus. As I said before, consensus is one of the key things to provide vision or a view as a community, but not having a consensus is not keeping us a way of reporting some feedback, because especially in public consultations, yeah, we are providing ORC point of view, but there is room for individual opinions. And yeah, not having consensus, it doesn't mean that the community doesn't think that this is relevant. It's basically that yeah, as a community, we didn't find a common ground to provide a specific input to one aspect, and we encourage always the ones that are yeah, providing inputs that yeah, didn't reach the consensus in the working group, to submit them individually. And finally, the reporting part, which is basically the consolidation in the documents. This is part of yeah, hidden work, because yeah, sometimes it's not perceived as one of the hard elements to implement, but actually there are certain restrictions in how the things should be reported that yeah, doesn't make automatic to move from, yeah, the consensus we get in the discussion to the actual text that we need to put in the document that we are submitting. So yeah, through these 4 steps, we make sure that yeah, the process is open to the community. Everyone has the opportunity to comment. And finally, what we are reporting as a community reflects the views of the community, and is not biased by yeah, anyone in between. Yeah, and also, well, one of the examples that we have, or in which we have implemented this process, is the input to the draft implementing a regulation of the technical description of important and critical product categories. As I said at the beginning, yeah, despite the long name, this is probably one of the most important yeah, elements, because well, the product categorization has strong impact in the way they yeah, they are designed and maintained, and also well, yeah, impacts the way open source is going to be used. So yeah, I put with this QR code, you can access directly to the things that we have reported as working group, and I think it should be yeah, a good way of yeah, getting in touch with how we ended up with a solution, although the content is a bit technical, which is something that yeah, it's happening in the working group. The discussions yeah, most of the times are getting into the details, and those details requires yeah, some preparation to be part of those discussions. Also, the feedback to call for evidence on the CSA, the Cybersecurity Act revision. That's, I think, one of the things that we are more proud of, because actually we ended up with quite a good process to provide comments, defining the public. It's kind of policy work that have been implemented as a working group effort, and we ended up with quite nice feedback. Again, very much focused on the things that are requested by the feedback call, and yeah, based on public discussion. So yeah, super inclusive, super open, and representing very well the views of the working group. All right, but what happens when the documents are not public? And this is something that we are facing several times since we started, and that honestly it wasn't expected in most of the cases at the beginning. So there are basically two types of documents that are not publicly available. The first ones are the Sensenelec standardization activities, and they are only accessed at this stage to the people who is involved, or the entities that are involved in the in Sensenelec working groups. And the second is the CRA expert group, which it's basically limiting the access to the working documents, and only the working documents, not to the is limiting the access to the working documents to those who are members of the CRA expert group. So in this situation, there are a limited number of things that we can do as working group, of course, but it's our commitment to do it and try to collect community consensus on when possible, and on the topics that are discussed in the working group. So the first thing that we do is use the SIG calls to bring topics to discuss publicly. Of course, the document cannot be disclosed, nor the content, not document, of course, itself. But when there are these topics, we point to them, highlight them, and try to bring some discussions to collect views on it. The second step is try to consolidate the inputs that we receive to it, because again, the fact that they are not public, it doesn't mean that some of the members of the community has access to them. So when this happens, we try to consolidate, to gather together, and basically report something from the community point of view. And that's the third step. Right, once we have collected and consolidated all the inputs, of course, the feedback from the public discussions that we have provide a final document that contains the views that we have set. Some examples, and I'm using two of them. The first one is the contribution to Sensenelec vulnerability handling standard, basically introducing the role of the open source software stewards, and that's something that we brought, and it was created by members of the community that are participating in that activity. The other one could be the comments, because the first one is a contributing before the first proposal is ready. The second one, the comments on Sensenelec PT1 standard, is basically commenting on the proposal that Sensenelec has done. And on both cases, that the key aspect that we are trying to address always in our contributions in this kind of documents is how to provide a good overview of where we are as open source community, and being sure that the content that is included in the standards reflects or respects the way of working of open source, not putting additional load on them, but actually enabling people to keep using it. And specifications. We have quite few of them listed as in our deliverable plan. We are still not, we haven't finished any of them, and we just started the vulnerability management task force. And here, one of the most important thing, because it's one of the challenges that we faced as working group, is why focus on adaptability matters. As I said before, one of the aspects of the CRA, or one thing about the CRA is the scope is super broad, And we really need to bring or to focus on those parts of the CRA implementations in which the open source community can bring value. Sorry. And yeah, and also going back to the granularity concept that I commented before, one of the things that we realized in the working group is that the task forces helps to drive work in a direction, and by creating this task force, what we are trying to achieve is, on the one hand, help us to focus on those aspects in which we can create an impact. Second, build internal alignment to be sure that all of us are moving in the same direction. And third, is to enable that the technical conversations are happening in the right place. Okay, so last point is the white papers, because yeah, we have also a few of them already listed as in our deliverable plan. And yeah, we have currently open for contributions, 2 of them. The white paper on types of open source projects. Yeah, you can access to it through our GitHub space in the deliverable section, and the white paper on SBOMs. That is something that yeah, it's been about to start in the coming days or yeah. So, all right. So finally, what I've presented so far is where we are, what we have done, how we are adapting to the situation that we are having in the working group, and with the interaction with all the relevant stakeholders in the CRA implementation. The last point is how to join our community. And actually, it's super easy, and one of the things that we are trying to bring is a frictionless process in which is super easy to get in touch with the work we are developing. First, with joining the GitHub, because it's the place where we are storing, I would say, all the resources that we are creating. Everything that I've shared today in terms of deliverables is available in our GitHub. So my recommendation is to join our GitHub community, take a look to it, both to the things that we have under the ORC WG repository, which is basically the conversations that we are having in the SIG calls, and yeah, the deliverable plan and the deliverables themselves. But also the CRA Hub, which is the place in which we are organizing all the resources that are aligned with the CRA. All right. The second step will be to join our calls. Our calls are open to everyone, and yeah, it's again, the GitHub is like the best resource to get in touch with the activities that we are implementing. That sometimes you could be, or you could feel a little bit lost into what are the kind of things or how to contribute to it. Our community calls. We have the SIG calls on Monday. Yesterday we did the last CRA Monday before the summer. But and also the task force calls are all of them recorded in our community calendar, and it's the best place to start getting in touch with the activities we are implementing, the level of the discussions that we are having. Basically a place to share where your contributions can fit, and how to be involved in our community and be represented your views in the different deliverables that we are creating. And the third aspect will be joining our mailing list and our Slack community. The mailing list is where we are. We are not inventing nothing here, but just to reinforce, because sometimes we try to replace mails with Slack messages. But actually, the mailing list is one of the most active resources that we have, because it's a place where we are sharing all the things that will happen. And Slack is basically a really good one to get one-on-one conversation or quick chats with the members of our community. And the last way of getting in touch with us, and super useful as well, is to visit us at the events in which the community will be present. And I put these 5 for the second half of the year. Starting next week, we will be in Geneva, hosting one of the sessions in the global collaboration of wallets and credentials. One of the members of the community is organizing Complyland in Malta, which is a really nice venue. But also the content of the conference is super well aligned with what we are doing in the CRA, in the ORC Working Group and the CRA. Also in the Things Conference in Amsterdam, we will be there. The Nordic Software Security Summit in Stockholm. And in October, in Brussels, the 22nd and 23rd of October, we will be organizing the Code and Compliance ORC community event, in which we will go deeper into most of the things that you've seen today. But we plan to organize something really nice around the CRA implementation, involving different stakeholders, and be as open for discussion as we've been so far. Also membership. It's important because one of the pillars that I included at the beginning was the representativity, and we always welcome individual members to contribute to our activities. And in the spirit of the creation of the working group, openness was one of the main things. But also membership is what help us to keep growing. And also the benefits from being member of the working group in terms of shaping the future of the compliance, stay ahead of the regulatory changes, and amplify your voice. That's something that is also important to us. So as a summary, the first thing is that the implementation of the CRA is a journey in which 3 aspects are critical. And this is the view from the working group, which is the close relationship with institutions, basically to be always in touch with them and participate in the discussions that are relevant for CRA implementation. Adaptability, which is basically be flexible enough to include or to participate in those activities, even if the timeline is quite challenging. And the third element is focus. And I want to insist on this, because it's probably one of the biggest risks with the CRA implementation. It's always focusing on the areas in which you have the knowledge to create an impact, and not try to be like super broad at attacking multiple vectors if the impact that you are going to create is limited. So how to focus is one of the biggest benefits or biggest opportunities to create an impact in the CRA implementation. Then the ability to execute depends on the organization of the work to deliver valuable contributions to requested topics. As I said before, this is 100% linked to the focus. It's about identifying where you are good at and what are the things you want to change, rather than being super broad and create like lengthy documents that are not getting into the depth or are not deep enough to make a change. What we are implementing in the working group is in the open, and that's something that we are not going to change. Building an inclusive way to participate in the regulatory discussions, and join us to keep making this community contributing to all these challenges. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Juan, for the excellent presentation. It is greatly appreciated. Just a reminder, if anyone in the audience has any questions, please feel free to ask them in the chat or use the Ask a Questions tab. And a final reminder that your webinar feedback survey is open, so your feedback is greatly appreciated as well. It is how we are able to improve and bring you some more content and some good, relevant information that you guys are all looking to have in order for us to share. So let's go take a quick look here, Juan, in the questions. I don't see any questions in the Ask a Questions tab. And I don't see any questions in the chat. All right. Well, thank you again. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. We greatly appreciate it. Take care.